Welcome to the deep dive. Let me ask you something. Have you ever just been totally drowning in work and you look at your to-do list and think, is it faster if I just do it myself?
Oh, yeah. I think we have all been there.
Right. Like it just feels so much easier in the moment to just put your head down and do it.
It does. But we are actually looking at a Gallup study today that proves those exact managers, the hardest working ones, the ones who put in the most hours and never log off, are actually costing their companies a lot.
Wait, costing them? How so?
Well, by insisting on doing absolutely everything themselves, they're costing their companies roughly 33% of their potential revenue.
33%. Are you serious? That's an insane number.
It is incredibly jarring, especially if you pride yourself on being the person who just rolls up their sleeves and gets the job done.
Yeah, the classic hero complex.
Exactly. But the mechanism behind that 33% is fascinating because when you hoard work, you basically become the ultimate bottleneck for your team.
Right, because decisions just stack up on your desk.
Exactly. Time to market slows down.
Yeah.
And worse, your top talent gets bored because they aren't being challenged with complex problems, so, they leave.
Oh, wow. So that missing revenue isn't just like lost efficiency, it's lost innovation and massive turnover costs.
Spot on.
Okay, let's unpack this because there is a massive gap between knowing we should delegate and actually, doing it well.
Oh, absolutely.
Today's deep dive is based on a fantastic piece from the Retrieving Thoughts blog, and they tackle why we are so terrible at handing things off and, more importantly, how to actually do it without losing your mind.
Which is the dream, right?
Right. I mean, we all know the theory, but the emotional friction of letting go is very real. There's this meme the author brings up. It's one of those old Some Cards memes, and it just says, I wish I could delegate delegating.
That is so accurate. It feels like so much work just to hand the work away.
Yeah, because doing a task yourself gives you like immediate feedback. You get a sense of control. Handing it off just feels risky.
It feels risky because we often confuse delegation with abdication.
Ooh, abdication. What do you mean by that?
Well, the author points out that poor delegation usually manifests in two extremes. Either you dump a complex task on someone's desk with zero context and just, walk away.
The classic dump and run.
Right. Or, on the flip side, you hover over their shoulder, scrutinizing every single keystroke.
Ugh, the micromanager approach.
Exactly. And both of those approaches literally trigger a stress response in the employee. It shuts down the creative problem-solving centers of their brain.
So they're basically in fight or flight mode over a spreadsheet.
Yeah, pretty much. And by doing that, you're effectively guaranteeing a subpar result, which then just reinforces your own internal narrative that you should have just done it yourself in the first place.
Man, that is a vicious cycle. So the goal here is to shift from being the ultimate doer to being an enabler.
Yes, acting as a coach rather than a player.
But let's look at the actual application of this. How do we decide what actually gets handed off? I mean, when you are staring at a massive, overwhelming to-do list, every single item feels absolutely essential.
It does. But the blog provides a really sharp rule of thumb for this exact moment.
Oh, can't wait on me?
You want to delegate tasks that are high priority for someone else's growth, but low priority for you. You're looking for that specific intersection.
High priority for their growth, low priority for me.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense for specialized tasks.
How so?
Well, if I'm managing a software project, I obviously shouldn't be the one mocking up the user interface if I have a graphic designer on the team. I hand off that specialized work because, frankly, I'm not the expert anyway.
Right, that's the easy stuff to delegate. But the more complex category the text brings up is what the author calls growth opportunities.
Right, which is a bit more nuanced.
Very much so. This is where the profound mindset shift happens. Let's say you have a mid-level developer.
Assigning them to lead a small, low-risk feature rollout isn't just about clearing a line item off your desk. It's a structural investment in their capacity.
So you are basically expanding what they are capable of handling next quarter.
Exactly. It's an investment.
Well, that sounds great for the developer's resume, but I have to play devil's advocate here. There are certain things I absolutely cannot let go of.
Oh, for sure. The article outlines that too. Critical, long-term strategic decisions have to stay in your court.
Right, like you can't delegate the ultimate direction of the department.
No, definitely not. You also retain anything involving highly sensitive information. So, performance reviews, budget approvals, complex personnel issues.
Makes sense, the HR stuff and the money.
Yeah. And generally, You keep the high-stakes, outward-facing responsibilities,
Hmm.
like pitching to a major new client or defending a project at the executive board. You hold on to the levers that actually steer the ship.
Steer the ship, right. But this is where I start to struggle with the theory,
Why is that?
because that is a very clean, rational division of labor. But in reality, how do you separate a growth opportunity from a critical decision when your hair is on fire and everything on your desk feels like a five-alarm emergency?
I know exactly what you mean, but that feeling of constant buzzing emergency is exactly why we need a filtering system.
Right.
Our brains are actually incredibly bad at distinguishing between what is loud and what is actually important.
Oh, that's so true. The loudest problem always gets the attention.
Exactly. So the text leans on the Eisenhower matrix to solve this cognitive blind spot.
Ah, the classic four-quadrant box, urgency versus importance.
Yep. And there's that great quote from President Eisenhower the author uses. What is important is seldom urgent, and what is urgent is seldom important.
We probably don't need a deep history lesson on the Matrix, but the way this article applies it to modern knowledge work is really revealing, especially regarding the psychological trap of Quadrant 3.
Yes, Quadrant 3 is the urgent but not important category.
The worst quadrant.
It really is. These are the constant Slack messages, the minor scheduling conflicts, the sudden quick questions from another department.
Basically my entire Tuesday morning.
Right. They demand your attention this very second, but they don't actually move the needle on any of your core strategic goals.
And the crazy part is we are entirely addicted to Quadrant 3 tasks.
Oh, 100%.
Because think about it, knocking out 5 quick emails or resolving a minor scheduling issue gives you a massive dopamine hit.
You get to cross something off the list.
Exactly, you feel incredibly productive, but you haven't actually accomplished anything meaningful. It's just the illusion of momentum.
You've just been treading water faster.
Right.
So the mandate for Quadrant 3 is to delegate it immediately to someone who can handle the urgency without needing your strategic input.
Which frees you up.
Because every minute you spend putting out a minor fire is a minute stolen from Quadrant 2.
Quadrant 2 being the important but not urgent work, like long-term planning, team development, analyzing market trends.
The stuff that actually drives that 33% revenue growth we talked about.
Exactly the work that gets constantly pushed to tomorrow because it isn't screaming at you today.
Right. And to protect that time, you have to let go of the day-to-day execution. Think of yourself as the CPU of a computer and your team as the GPU, the graphics processing unit.
Oh, I loved this part of the source. That is a fantastic way to visualize it. So the central processor shouldn't be trying to render every single pixel on the screen.
Right. If the CPU tries to render complex 3D graphics while also running the operating system, the entire computer just freezes. You get the spinning beach ball of death.
We've all seen the beach ball of death.
It's simply not built for that specific workload. You offload the rendering to specialized cores, your GPU, so you can keep the overarching system stable.
It also reminds me of another analogy from the text, the ship's crew.
Oh, yes. The captain and the crew.
Yeah, so like you are the captain, you set the course, you navigate the storm, those are your critical decisions. But the crew hoists the sails and keeps watch. The captain doesn't need to be down there pulling the ropes, but they do need to make sure the crew actually knows how to hoist the sail.
Exactly. You ensure they are equipped. But, you can't just throw raw data at the GPU or yell at the crew and hope for the best.
Right.
You have to know what kind of processing power you're working with on the other end. Which brings us to the skill and confidence matrix from the text.
Yeah, because passing off a task to a senior engineer is fundamentally different than assigning it to a brand new intern.
Completely different.
Ah.
It requires diagnosing the psychological and technical state of the person receiving the task.
So how does that matrix work?
Well, if they have low skill and low confidence for a specific project, you have to provide really tight boundaries.
Okay.
You give them detailed instructions and you set up frequent checkpoints.
Makes sense. But what if they have high skill and low confidence? Let's say they are fully capable, but maybe they just transferred to a new team. Or they're tackling a high visibility project for the first time and they're second guessing themselves.
That requires a completely different mechanism of support. You do not give them step-by-step instructions.
Why not?
Because that feels patronizing, and it actually undermines the confidence you are trying to build.
Oh, I see.
Instead, you shift entirely into a coaching role. You act as a sounding board, you validate their logic, and you help them see that they already possess the right answer.
And then I assume once they hit high skill and high confidence, you just let them run with it.
Exactly. You simply hand them the objective and get out of their way.
Okay, diagnosing their skill level makes sense conceptually. But this brings us to the actual execution phase, and honestly, I have to stop you here.
Uh-oh. What's wrong?
Well, the article breaks the delegation process down into 4 steps. Form the task, control progress, motivate and support, and close the task.
Right, the 4 steps.
I'm looking at the fine print for steps 2 and 3, and it sounds suspiciously like a masterclass in micromanaging.
Okay, what specific mechanics are you bumping up against?
Well, step 2 says to control progress by checking milestones and setting up predefined check-ins. And step 3 demands that we provide guidance and help them navigate problems.
Yes.
I'll be completely honest with you. If I'm operating in a high-pressure environment, say a startup where we are launching a massive update in 48 hours, I do not have time to be a Socratic coach.
Okay.
But I don't have the luxury of setting up gentle milestone check-ins and carefully guiding a junior developer through their feelings about a bug in the code. If I have to do all that, it really is faster to just push them aside, fix the bug myself, and ship the product.
I hear you.
How does this coaching model survive contact with extreme pressure? Because to me, it contradicts the whole saving time argument.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, you have to realize something. If you are 48 hours from a make-or-break company launch, you are operating in quadrant 1, urgent and important.
Right.
You handle crises directly. The problem arises when leaders treat a Tuesday afternoon marketing email with the exact same DEFCON 1 intensity as a vital product launch.
Oh, whoa.
You are justifying a chronic habit of micromanagement by pretending every single obstacle is an existential crisis.
Ouch. Okay, that is a very fair point. I might be guilty of manufacturing urgency to justify keeping my hands on the keyboard.
A lot of us are.
But even for a normal non-crisis project, these steps seem incredibly time-consuming up front.
They do require time up front, yes. But let's look at the mechanism of why delegation fails under normal pressure.
Okay.
It is almost always a lack of upfront clarity. If you just toss a project over the fence because you're in a hurry, without defining the boundary conditions, the project will drift.
Yeah, that's true.
And then you'll spend triple the time fixing it on the back end.
But defining those boundaries feels like it takes the exact time I'm trying to save by delegating in the first place.
Think of it as the 10-90 rule.
The 10-90 rule.
Yeah. As the leader, you spend 10% of the overall project time defining the absolute boundary conditions of the problem. You say, here is the strict budget, here is the non-negotiable deadline, and here are the 3 brand guidelines you absolutely cannot break. Inside that sandbox, you have total creative freedom.
Okay, I like the sandbox analogy.
Right. Then the employee spends 90% of the time exploring the space inside those boundaries.
Set the constraints, then step back. I think we can find consensus on that. But what happens when they hit a wall inside that sandbox?
That brings us back to step 3.
Right, because the text explicitly says, provide guidance, not solutions. But if they come to me panicking 2 days before a deadline, my immediate instinct is to look at the screen and say, oh, I see the problem, just let me rewrite this query real quick.
And the exact moment you grab that keyboard, you have triggered what the author calls reverse delegation.
Reverse delegation, basically the monkey jumping off their back and landing right back onto mine.
Precisely. But let's analyze why employees do this, because it is rarely out of laziness.
What is it then?
It is usually driven by a fear of failure or lack of psychological safety. If they hit an obstacle and their amygdala flares up because they worry making a mistake will get them reprimanded, the path of least resistance is to hand the difficult decision back to you.
So they just walk into your office and say, boss, what should I do?
Exactly.
And because my ego likes feeling needed and because I just want to fix the problem quickly, I tell them the answer.
Yep. And when you grab the keyboard or when you dictate the solution, you are validating their fear. You are actively telling them, you're right. You can't handle this level of complexity.
Man, that's a terrifying thought. By stepping in to save the day and be the hero, I'm actively training my team to be helpless.
Exactly.
I'm basically conditioning them to stop thinking critically the moment things get hard.
You are building a dependency. Providing guidance means resisting that urge. It means asking, what approaches have you already tried? Or, based on the data, what do you think our best next step is?
Force them to retain ownership.
Yes.
Yeah.
You force them to retain ownership of the problem. They have to do the cognitive heavy lifting.
I really see the distinction now. If I solve the problem for them, I'm a micromanager. But if I force them to articulate their own solution by asking the right questions, I'm a coach.
Exactly.
It's incredibly painful in the moment, especially when you can see the answer clearly and the clock is ticking. But If I don't endure that friction today, I'll be fixing their bugs at 2 in the morning for the rest of my career.
Which is exactly why the final step, closing the task, is so critical to breaking that cycle.
Step 4.
Right. You don't just ship the product and immediately move on to the next fire.
Yeah.
You have to formally close the loop.
Now, the article emphasizes acknowledging the good work publicly, which is, standard leadership advice. But it also says you need to explicitly ask for feedback on your delegation.
Yes.
Like asking your team, did I give you enough clarity at the start? Did I hover too much in the middle? Did you feel supported when you hit that roadblock? That takes a massive amount of vulnerability.
It takes vulnerability, but that is how you engineer a culture of deep trust.
Yeah.
You are signaling to your team that you view this as a partnership. It's not just about getting the widget built. It's about optimizing the machine that builds the widgets.
You are building a more capable, autonomous system. I love that. And for our listeners, remember, the link to the full Retrieving Thoughts article is right there in the description.
Definitely go check it out.
I highly recommend looking at it if you want to visualize the frameworks we discussed today, especially that Eisenhower box.
It is a phenomenal tool for auditing your own week.
All right, as we wrap up, let's rapidly distill the final 4 takeaways from the text for you to keep in your back pocket.
Let's do it.
Number 1, treat delegation as a structural investment. Endure the short-term friction of the 10-90 rule to build a team that can operate autonomously. Stop sacrificing long-term capacity for short-term convenience.
Perfect. Number 2, diagnose before you delegate. Use the skill and confidence matrix to understand the psychological state of your team member. Don't use a one-size-fits-all approach. Adapt your management style, moving from tight boundaries for beginners to a hands-off coaching role for veterans.
Number 3, beware of reverse delegation. When your team hits a wall and comes to you for help, provide guidance, not solutions. Do not grab the keyboard. Ask questions that force them to do the critical thinking. Make sure they walk out of your office still carrying the monkey.
And finally, number 4, close the loop. Build psychological safety by asking for robust feedback on your own delegation process. Lack of clarity is the ultimate enemy of empowerment.
Incredible insights today. Before we go, what is our final thought for the listener?
I would say take a hard look at your to-do list this morning. Find that one task you're holding on to strictly out of habit or out of a need for control, and ask yourself, by hoarding this work, whose valuable growth opportunity am I actively stealing today?
Wow, that is going to sting a little for some of us, but it's the exact question we need to confront. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Now get out there, offload some of that processing power, and unleash your team's full potential. We'll see you next time.